It's 6:30. We'd like to start on time. I'll welcome you to the Murray City Municipal Council meeting for Tuesday, August 14th, sorry. Pining for cooler days. Before we get started, I'm sure you've probably read in the news by now, our firefighter family, and we're going to have a swearing in today, lost a member. Draper City Battalion Chief Matt Burchett passed away while helping in the California fires. I'd like to take just a minute, a moment of silence before we get started for the chief. Thank you. Public safety officials are important to us. That one, the fire community is a family. My brother's a firefighter. My nephew's a firefighter. And you see something like that pop up in the news or Facebook, and it just scares you to death. Even when it's not one of your own, it's still one of your own. So thank you for giving us that moment. Again, welcome. If you have cell phones, if you would put them on silent, please, we would appreciate that. We will work through the meeting. We've got a lot of stuff on the agenda. First item will be the Pledge of Allegiance, and I've asked our Police Chief, Craig Burnett, to lead us in the pledge. Craig, if you would.
Please stand and repeat the Pledge of Allegiance with me.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks, Chief. Okay, next item is approve the minutes for the council meeting for July 17th. You've all had a chance to look them over. If there are no changes, I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes. So moved.
I like when you do that. So
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
second.
Okay, motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Sounds unanimous. Motion carries. All right, we'll go into special recognition. Before we get the two items on that list, I know I saw one scout. We'd like to recognize the scouts who are here. If they're sitting in the room, would you stand up? You're right in front. Man, usually that row's empty. If you just tell us your troop number, who you are, and what badge you might be working on. You're welcome. You picked a good one. Any other scouts? Okay, thank you. So we'll go on. Next item is to recognize our Employee of the Month, Danny O'Rourke, Assistant Library Director. Brett Hales is at the podium, and I know Kim Fong is here, so Brett, take it away.
Come on up, Danny, and come on up, Kim. Welcome, Danny. Thank you. This is a program we started about 6 years ago where we recognize an Employee of the Month, and this is a wonderful opportunity for you and also us as a council to be able to recognize. And Kim has submitted Danny O'Rourke, who is the Assistant Library Director and been here quite a while, about 21 years. Amazing how many employees stay with Murray City. And so we want to recognize you, Danny, and are grateful for all that you do for the city and for the library. So here's a gift certificate for $50 for you. And there's a certificate, and then we'll have your name put on the plaque back there. And that's going to be in this building or any other building that we have. That'll go forevermore. So we give a round of applause for Danny. Thank you.
I get to say a few words about why Danny was chosen for this honor. Danny has been an instrumental force in shaping the library and the services that we provide. He has been employed at the library for 21 years, with the last 14 years as the assistant library director. One of his major contributions has been to coordinate the maintenance of our beautiful library building, which is an inviting place in spite of its age. Danny's attention to detail has assured that our community can be proud of this welcoming civic building. Another of Danny's contributions to the library has been in the field of technology development. He has been the guiding force behind the many technological advances that the library has faced over the past 21 years. He has worked with a large variety of vendors, equipment, and services to ensure that the library stays up to date and offering the best technology to our patrons. Danny has also been the designer of the library's stylish promotional material. His dedication to the Murray Library brand has allowed our website, social media, and in-house material to become the envy of many other libraries. His beautiful designs are often commented on by visitors to the library and the library website. I am grateful for Danny's many years of service to Murray Library, and I am sad that he will soon be retiring. His vision for the library will have a lasting impact on the services we provide and our future plans for the library.
Hope to see you all at the library.
All right, thank you, Danny. You walked away before you asked if you had anybody you wanted to introduce, any family members or anything. Just you. Congratulations, thank you. And now, swearing in of the Assistant Fire Chief, Chad Pasqua. Chad and John Harris will be handling that, so Chief, if you would.
My name is John Harris. I'm the Fire Chief for Murray City. And today I'd like to introduce Chad Pasqua. Come on up, please. Today I really have the honor of introducing you to Chad Pasqua. Well, first of all, we're actually the same height. He's wearing lifts tonight. I just like to say that. So let me tell you a little bit about Chad. Chad actually started back in '94 with Salt Lake County, which is now United Fire Authority. And in the late 90s, before Murray had a paramedic service, Salt Lake County actually provided the medics to the station. So for a couple of years, Chad was actually housed in our Station 81. And so we got to work on a daily basis. And I think two things happened during that time. The first thing is Chad learned what a great city it was here in Murray and that he wanted to work here. And two, we learned we didn't really like Chad, but we had a testing process, and for some reason he came up top, and we picked him up in 2000, right? So he's been working us with so for 18 years now, and Chad's worked his way up the ranks to, let's see, started off, like I mentioned, as a paramedic, then you became a captain. You were over hazmat, I think, when you were captain, over the hazmat to battalion chief, and now to assistant chief. Chad has his bachelor's degree in sociology and his associate's degree in fire science. So we're very excited to have Chad aboard. You know, the biggest thing about Chad, I think that sets him apart, is his ability to take ownership of projects. Chad's been in charge of our ambulances, our fleet, our the computer program that we use for record documentation. And the thing is, he takes this level of ownership where if things don't go right, he really takes it personally. But the thing is, it's enabled him to be so detailed and really take projects and take them to a new level. And that's one of the reasons that really we wanted to promote him. So congratulations. Thank you, Chief.
You gotta get pinned first.
I will, that's right.
You want to introduce your family?
I do. I'm really excited about this position. I'd just like to thank the chief for the opportunity. I'd like to thank all the firefighters for being here and for the mayor for giving me a chance when he hired me back in 2000. So, but I'd like to introduce my wife, Stephanie. And you guys can stand up when I introduce you. This is my son, Sam. He's a firefighter paramedic for West Jordan City. His girlfriend, Mara. My daughter, Emily, who's a soccer player for Westminster, and she's also in nursing school. And Emily's boyfriend, Jacob.
I'd like to just take a second and say a couple of brief comments. As Chief Pasqua mentioned, I had the opportunity to hire him back in 2000 from the department formerly known as Salt Lake County Fire Department. But during that time, we were just in the infancy of our paramedic program in the city, and we were in need of experienced paramedics. We had new paramedics coming out of school, and they needed some mentors, and Chad was one of those that stepped into that role and really helped us get our paramedic program off the ground, and has just done a tremendous job doing that. And one of the reasons we have such a great program today in our paramedic program is because of the groundwork that Chad did back in 2000, early 2000s. So congratulations, Chief. Well deserved. Thank you.
Yes, congratulations. And anybody who is here now for Chad, you don't have to stay to the end. So feel free to get up and run far and run fast. We'll take a second for them to walk out. We've come up to citizen comments. This is the chance for citizens who might have a question or concern can come speak. We do note what you say. We can't act on it tonight, but if you have anything to comment on, please come to the podium. Give us your name and address. We do ask that you limit to 3 minutes. I will say we have 3 public hearings scheduled. They'll be coming up shortly. So if you have comments for the public hearing, please wait until the public hearings. Would any citizens care to comment at this time? Okay, seeing none, then we will move forward. Oh, sorry. You need to come up to the podium, name, address, and again, if it's on the public hearing.
No.
Okay.
I don't think so. It just said, my name is Kenton Moore, K-N-O-R-R. I live at 1698 East, 6525 South.
Thank you.
Brookstone condominium. And I used to be, a matter of fact, I started off when I got my master's degree teaching at Murray High School. Made about $5,000 a year, and I thought I was doing quite well. I'm just concerned now that when I got my tax increase, it's gone up $500 in 1 year, and I haven't done anything to it. I worked for 30 years in the district, Granite School District, never saw a pay increase of $5,000. We were lucky to get $50 a month as an increase. And I'm seeing now that the teachers, they well deserve an increase, but I am paying like $400 of that, and Murray City is getting another $105. The 200 residents of Brookstone that I kind of represent, each paying 200 times, that's over $100,000 that's coming just from our Brookstone condominium to increase taxes. I'm concerned that the amount of the tax increase is excessive, and they obviously use some kind of a property valuation to raise that. I can't argue with that, and can't argue that people need more money, but I am now on a fixed income, having worked for the state for 31 years, and it's just really hard on a fixed income to pay another $500. I'm mostly concerned about the future. If they raise it more, I could lose my house just because Proposition 13 in California, millions of people lost millions of dollars because they raised their taxes simply by property evaluation. I know that's hitting us hard. I hope it doesn't affect everybody, but $100,000 would help pay for a lot of things that I know we'll be paying for. I just hope they can be careful in raising taxes and thinking that there are a lot of people out there, like myself, on a fixed income. It's going to be really hard to pay that.
Thank you. That's actually our third public hearing. And we've got a 15-minute presentation that we showed at we did 5 neighborhood meetings, but we'll have that in a little bit. Any other citizen comments not related to ordinance changes? Yes. Same thing. You've got to come up to the podium, name, address. Please limit to 3 minutes.
I'm John Halliday. I live on Sanford Drive in Murray. I just wanted to bring up a topic about the no parking there. We put up no parking back in 1984, so it's been over 25 years that we've had that there. And I'm glad we had it at the time because of our little children and the people speeding up and down that road. But now it's mostly older people like I am. It's still there. I was kind of concerned about if they could take it down now because we don't have no. We've only maybe got 2 children on that street. But I know the policemen. It's hard for them to patrol every street every day, and sometimes I appreciate them coming down our street, but since there's no parking is there, sometimes it's not really enforced. I just thought, well, since it's not enforced too much, I thought, well, maybe to save the police time or the city time if those signs could be brought down. And another topic I want to concern about is Chief Barnett. I've known him for about 8 years. He lives in my state, and I appreciate the work that he does for us. He's a very good man. So that's my topic for you guys. Thank you for giving me this opportunity.
You're welcome. Thank you. Anybody else like to make a citizen comment? Now I'm double checking. All right, I don't see any more. We'll move on. Next item is the consent agenda. We have 2 on there. We'll take them together, and forgive me when I butcher your last name because I'll read them off. The mayor can do the presenting. First one is consider confirmation of the mayor's appointment of Nancy. Is it Buist? Buist. I heard that, and then I didn't hear it. Forgive me, to the Murray City Cultural Arts Board to fulfill an unexpired term which ends January 15th, 2019. And the second will be consider confirmation of the mayor's appointment of L. Sage Fitch to the Murray Library Board of Trustees representing District 3 to fulfill an unexpired term which ends June 30th, 2019. Mayor, would you like to say anything before we...
Yes, thank you. First of all, both of these young ladies are here this evening. Nancy, would you mind just standing? And Sage is right here. I just want to say that how much we appreciate the number of people who are serving on our boards and commissions, and so thank you for volunteering and your time and your talents to help us with. We have 12 boards and commissions, about 180 people serving, so it's significant, and we just want to express our appreciation to you for your willingness to serve. So thank you.
Thank you.
Agreed, thank you. And I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll move confirmation of the mayor's consent agenda.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Jennifer, if you call the vote, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. And again, welcome. Our volunteers are really very important to us. So, and you get to learn a lot about what goes on in the city. All right, public hearing number 1. This is a public hearing to consider an ordinance amending section 17.170.100, 17.1070.110, 17.170.120, 17.170.140, and 17.170.160 of the Murray City Municipal Code relating to density, height, open space, and parking in the Murray City Center District. Tim.
Council, as you're aware, we've had a number of public meetings regarding this issue, especially related to density in the downtown. It was prompted by the council wanting us to look at the density issues in the downtown and to do a study and evaluate the implications of that, which we did. In the spring, we presented that to you and actually had multiple committee of the whole meetings talking about that. We also spent significant time related to this talking with the Planning Commission. They provided input. In fact, they provided a recommendation at their June 21st meeting, which I'll talk about just shortly. Let me just highlight, there's a lot of different code sections, a lot of different components of the code that we're looking at modifying. So I'm just going to go through those as quickly as possible. There's really 5 components that we'll talk about. First relates to municipal building setbacks, and that's municipal building or public or quasi-public buildings. We are proposing right now, there's a setback requirement of having buildings up to the street, or if there is a setback proposed, that they either have a 15 to 18 foot setback. Municipal buildings are much different. As we look at municipal buildings coming into this area, there is possibilities for plazas, open spaces around municipal buildings. That's what's prompting this. And so the change, the modification, is allowing greater setbacks for those plaza areas around municipal buildings as determined through a design review process. And the additional setbacks will allow public plazas, as I mentioned, open spaces, park components around those buildings. So that is the first change. Second relates to parking for municipal buildings, where parking, right now, parking is supposed to be on the side of a building or behind a building as the building is up closer to the street. This change allows for municipal buildings that serve multiple uses in the downtown area to have parking areas in those areas in front of the building, because they would serve multiple type of uses related to the public. So that's the second element. The third is the height and density. So right now we have minimum height standards on the west side of State Street of 40 feet. And that is the standard. There is no cap on height and density. That cap is just based on what you can do to park the facility. And so now we are proposing, and we've had a number of studies that I'll talk about just in a minute, but we're proposing that buildings shall not exceed 10 stories in height or 135 feet, whichever is greater. And then also the buildings that are 6 stories and higher, there's a podium step back on those, and we're defining that podium step back to be 15, minimum of 15 feet to 25 feet. And the reason for that is that will allow a step back, so the scale is not so great with those step backs. It makes it more conducive to a pedestrian environment. In addition to that, the parking for buildings that exceed 4 stories in height have to be at least 50% of the parking shall be located in the exterior portion of the building or in a parking structure within 750 feet of the development. And then finally, the landscaping and open space. We define in this area the need for pedestrian walkways, connections, but in this proposal we are changing to allow for, or actually require, 15% of any development site to be required to go into plazas, open spaces, pedestrian walkways, and having connections to those elements of a plan. So those are the changes, the modifications that we're proposing. Just related to the height, this is something that the council wanted us to look at. Remember, in some of the studies that we did, the Wasatch Front Regional Council conducted the study and determined this area in our Murray City Center District, along with many other areas across the Wasatch Front, to be urban centers. Those urban centers, they've defined through a significant input process as 4 to 10 stories is typical for those areas. We also talk about connection, or having this area, and it's actually in our vision for the downtown, right in our ordinance, that this area will be an area that will be conducive to what we have built at the hospital, and that it will create an environment that will help enhance what we have at the hospital and connect the hospital and other elements. We also have had unlimited height standards in the area for a number of years. The highest structure that we've had come in is 4 stories. And so we recognize that cap is there, but it's unlikely that we'll get more than that. And the higher densities tend to be more conducive to a walkable environment and transportation opportunities. That's also outlined in our ordinance. So based on that, the Planning Commission had significant conversation about this. They actually, some of them had concerns about capping the height. But the recommendation is what I brought forward to you. They're recommending approval of these changes, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, I'm concerned about capping the height. What brought us to the 10-story?
You know, we looked at the Wasatch Front study. That was a component of what we looked at. But in addition to that, we evaluated and benchmarked looking at other communities, other density, not just in the state, but also within the state. And many other communities have 10 stories or higher as far as structures. In addition to that, we've looked at the hospital. They have a 15-story down to a 12-story as far as 2 of the taller buildings that they have over there. We didn't want to go that high. But we felt like a 10-story meets what we want for the vision of the downtown, and that it will be something that will add value to the area and also create that density along a transportation corridor.
Okay.
Anything else for Tim right now? Okay. Okay, so what we'll do is we're going to open up for public comment. We will take your comments. We do ask that you fill out a form. Jan Lopez has them here. You don't need to fill it out before you speak, but if you do speak, please fill it out. We ask you to come to the podium, give us your name and address. We do ask that you limit to 3 minutes. So I'm opening up for public comment now. I think I covered everything. Would anyone like to speak to this topic?
Mr. Brash and Council, I'm Orden Yost. I live at 4616 South Atwood Boulevard. I'm in Mr. Brash's district. I appreciate the effort that's gone through with staff and with the council in making these choices. My concerns are, as a proud Murray citizen, that if we enforce these particular guidelines, that we might end up with a city that's still sitting there without any development. And I make that statement only in that an economic standpoint of building that height today, when things have increased in construction costs and employees, that it's costing about 50% more than it cost 7 or 8 years ago. And to build only 10 stories challenges a developer to come in to build that. Depending on the rest of the requirements. Was there a requirement, was the density 80 an acre, Tim? Wasn't discussed. But when we have a density of 80 per acre, we're creating a basically non-functional residential unit, whether they're apartments or whether they're condominiums. To manage units, we're looking at a minimum of 100 units per acre or per development. And that in its own makes it difficult for us to manage and to create those types of units. We're also concerned about the limit of occupancies in residential units in the regard that we're trying to support downtown businesses. And if we don't have the density, then we won't have the retailers or the downtown businesses because we don't have enough people to feed them. Some of the challenges we have in other spots of the city where we have RDA direction and guideline. We just don't have enough people there. I would recommend that we consider potentially going to 15 stories. I would recommend that we not put a height limit, but that we put a storage. You can't build a 10-story building the way today's are done in 135, 145. What was it, Tim? In 135. It takes about 150 feet to build a 10-story building. That's with a 16-foot front, and on the next 3 floors, 16, and then you're at 14 for the balance. If you do that number, we're about 150. So I'd recommend that we do it on numbers of stories as opposed to the specific height that's been indicated. Those would be my recommendations. Thank you for your work.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hi, I'm Jenna Strobel, and I live at 4912 Wasatch. I did wonder about the density. I didn't hear that, but that got clarified earlier. And my comment to that is when we define what density is, we're missing the point. We're not defining what we want our city to look like. And so that's what I would say is let's do a better job of defining what we want our city to look like. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else care to comment? Okay, seeing none, we'll close the public comment portion of the hearing and open it up to council deliberation. Anyone have any comments on it?
I might after if Tim gets up.
Yeah, you want to do a follow-up? Okay.
So related to that, just for clarification, there is also the 80 units per acre component of density. That's part of the ordinance. Just to let you know, when we presented this, there have been projects that have been built recently in the community that have been fairly dense, that have been into the 60 to 65 units per acre range, and they've been successful related to that. And also there is that cap. It is 10 stories or the 135 feet, whichever is less. That's part of it. That's something that we felt is appropriate with what we have. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Well, so it's either or then, 10 stories or
Whatever is less,
150.
yep.
Okay.
Brett, did you want to?
No. That's what I was going to ask. I want to know if it was,
Yeah.
he said it is either or. Yes?
You did.
All right. I'll speak for a minute because it is my district. Yeah, this is a tough balance to have. You put a lot of people in a small area, and sometimes good things happen, sometimes bad things happen, but we do know we have a lot of public safety calls over in our apartment areas. We get elected to try and work out that balance to the best of our ability. I actually was the one who was concerned about the unlimited height. I was concerned about 10 stories, but we've now we've defined a podium, and a podium is where you go up and then you set back, and it's a 15 to 20 foot setback, where in the past that wasn't well defined. This will be a true setback, and it has to be at 3 feet, at the third story. So I was concerned that we would have an overwhelmingly large building on State Street, and to me personally, having grown up in the greater New York City area, walking along next to really, really tall buildings is not always pleasant. Generally, it's cold, it's always windy, and it's usually dark. The sun never gets down to the sidewalk. And I go downtown a lot. I like the restaurants downtown. I like that kind of feel. And so I'm okay with 10 stories with a podium. And I like the idea that we're asking for plazas and open spaces. Tim mentioned 15%, because my other concern is right now we're trying to raise money for Parkside Elementary to do an after-school program, because the children who live at Fireclay have nowhere to play, and so they hang out at the school until 5, 6, 7 o'clock at night. One of the things we've seen when we visited areas that are dense, and one was Mayo Clinic, is they had a lot of open space, small pocket parks, places you could go and sit and just relax. If we are truly trying to blend with the hospital, I think those are important, because if you've ever enjoyed staying in a hospital for a week or longer, it's nice to get away from the beeping monitors. And our hospital currently doesn't have anywhere to go. So that was the genesis of this. Gordon, you asked. I'll take the blame. It was my fault. But I think what we've got here is a pretty good compromise. Anyone else want to comment? If not, I would entertain a motion. Somebody's got to make one.
All right, I'll move to adopt the ordinance amending sections that
All those sections.
Councilman Brass already enumerated. And, let's see, relating to density, height, open space, and parking in the Murray City Center District.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and we have a second. Any discussion further? Jennifer?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion carries. Next is public hearing number 2. Also consider an ordinance amending a whole bunch more sections in Title 17. Section 17-146-130, 17-168-140, 17-170-130, and renumbering 2 sections, 17-146-140, 17-146-150, and 17-168-150 of the Murray City Municipal Code relating to lighting standards for mixed-use, transit-oriented development in the Murray City Center District zones. Welcome back, Tim.
Good to be back. We'll try to increase the number of code changes per item in the future, just to let you know.
Yeah, I love fixing my book.
Anyway, this has been prompted also by trying to create some consistency in our areas that are more transit-oriented development type areas, our TOD, our mixed use, and our Murray City Center District. And a lot of it is prompted from our conversations with the power department and how we're looking at the lighting, especially on lighting for new development that's placed by developers. They have to pay for those costs, and then we take over those because they're part of the right-of-way. We want to make sure we have consistency and that we also create lighting that will be conducive to what we're trying to see as far as development. So that is what's prompting this. Planning Commission recommended approval of this to you on June 21st, and let me just highlight what the changes are. Related to street and sidewalk lighting, they shall meet adopted city light design standards, and working with the power department on that. Illumination levels will not exceed IESNA recommended standards, and I'm sure you're wondering what that stands for. It's the Illuminating Engineering Society of North America. If many people want to join, I can probably give them a reference to that. In addition to that, there's pedestrian way lighting at appropriate scale to walking or to not be taller than 16 feet, except on major arterials. So areas like 4800 South, State Street, they're allowed up to 23 feet, and that's more conducive to what we have on a major arterial street. Lighting should be shielded and directed downward to prevent on-site glare, and all site lighting luminaries conform to the IESNA standards with cutoff or sharp cutoff classification. Amber light color, the 3000 Kelvin, will be allowed in consultation with the power department. And then building facade, so lighting that is on the property that's not part of the right-of-way, that's not lighting that we will maintain. We will allow for that, but the private lighting must meet or be subject to City Power Department review and approval. And then there's a banner component in the Murray City Center District. When there's banners located in those areas, we define what the banner arms are to be, and also the height of those banner arms as well. So those are the changes in these areas where we've talked about it with you as a council and a committee of the whole. We're recommending approval based on the ordinance that you have in the documents.
Thanks, Tim. Any questions for Tim on this?
Nope, we've gone over it before, and I really appreciate that, so I'm good.
Okay, I will open this up for public comment also. Same rules apply. If you speak, please fill out a form. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes and come to the podium. Is anybody interested in talking about lights? I sold electrical equipment for 40 years and I never got interested in talking about lights, so, sorry. Okay, seeing none, then we'll close the public hearing portion of this hearing and open it up to council deliberation or a motion.
I'll make a motion if there's no questions. Okay. I'll move that we approve an ordinance amending section 17.146.130, 17.168.140, and 17.170.130, and enumerating the sections 17.146.140, 17.146.150, I really should have done what Diane did, and 17.168.150 of the Murray City Municipal Code relating to lighting standards for the mixed-use transit-oriented development in Murray City Center District zones.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other comments?
I was just wondering if he could repeat his motion.
Yeah, you bet.
Yeah, what was the number in the middle? Jennifer?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. All right, last public hearing. This will be to consider an ordinance adopting the rate of tax levies for the fiscal year commencing July 1, 2018, ending July 30th, 2019. Denise will be doing a short presentation similar to the ones we did at the 5 public meetings we've done over the last few months. Our budget process, it starts in January, and we collect input. The mayor collects input from all the departments. It is then given to the council. The council reviews the budget. In this case, we saw reason to ask for a property tax increase. That puts into motion a truth and taxation hearing, which is what we are doing tonight. In preparation of those hearings, we had meetings at 5 different locations in the city to give citizens information, let them understand why we've made this choice. Denise will go through those now, and then we will do the public hearing again after her presentation. So whenever you're ready.
No.
Wouldn't mind going there, but.
Yeah, we got them on our screens now too.
Let's see if this will reach. This podium doesn't do well with a laptop, so we'll see how far I can see.
Denise is our finance director, for those who don't know her.
It doesn't really matter. I think I have this memorized. This is the 6th time I've made this presentation, so you'll forgive me if it becomes a little rote sometimes. As Councilman Brass explained, we did start the budget process back in January, and we asked the council what their priorities were as we started to prepare the budget. Their first priority was public safety. Back in January, things started to change, and there were a lot of news stories coming out about Salt Lake City hiring additional officers, other cities and counties hiring officers. We recognized that as of the end of our budget year, there were 600 open public safety positions within the state of Utah. We knew that that would become a concern, and the council was very invested in our public safety force, and they were interested in protecting that investment to make sure they stay here in Murray to serve you as the citizens and residents. Their second priority, excuse me, was the maintenance of the things that we already own. So it was roads, parks, equipment. Over the last 10 years, Murray has been tightening their belt to a point where they had not been able to maintain some of those things at the level that they needed to be maintained. And it was time that those things needed to be maintained at that level. So we proposed a maintenance plan. In addition, there were some improvements that need to be made, and one of the improvements that needed to be made this year was Fire Station 81, which is 40 years old and will now be relocated to Box Elder and 48th South and rebuilt in that location, which is a little further off of the main road there. So we bonded for the fire station construction, and that will be an improvement that was included in the budget. In addition to the public safety priority, the council was interested in making sure that we were
we were staffed at the correct level. AISU is a newer school in our community, and they did not have a school resource officer. So included in this budget was another school resource officer for that school. Now, I know you wonder what a school resource officer does all summer. They're actually put on a bike, and they patrol all of the parks and the trails all summer long. One officer today told us he lost 11 pounds. In addition, we hired 2 crossing guards. They will be assigned to Riverview Junior High. A new battalion fire chief, which you saw sworn in today, that will take over emergency operations for the city, emergency management, and is also going to be managing the training of our fire department. And then the office administrator for fire changed from part-time to full-time. Our entire fire department was supported by 1 office administrator, and they will now have 2. We added a GIS analyst, which supports our snow plowing and street maintenance programs, as well as a lot of other things within the city. And GIS means our geographical mapping system. We added a parks maintenance worker, we added a risk analyst, and we added I forgot that last one, facilities maintenance, or supervisor. We added a lot of facilities over the last few years. The Murray Mansion, the chapel, the Murray Theater, and those other facilities, all of them are requiring quite a bit of maintenance, and we needed somebody to supervise the staff that will oversee that maintenance. When I got to Murray, I'd been here about 18 months. One of the things that I do at the very beginning is I look at where is the city at financially. And so I looked at revenues and expenditures. And the blue line that you see there is revenues from 2006 until present. And then the orange line are expenditures. Now, what happened in 2006, when you see the orange line below the blue line, which is a good thing, is that Murray went through a tax increase and started preparing for the things that they knew were on their agenda. And everything was fine and well from 2006 until about 2008, when the economy changed tremendously. Murray is completely vulnerable to the car industry, the car sales industry. It is about 33% of our sales tax revenue, which makes up about 50% of our total revenue as a city. And so when the economy changes, car sales change tremendously, and that's what happened in Murray. And so you can see the blue line fell below the orange line. The council knew that that this was occurring, but they also knew there was no way that they could come to residents and ask for a tax increase when the residents themselves were losing jobs and losing homes, and it was just not a very good time in our history. And so we held on, and we kept that blue line low, which is the revenues, and the orange line stayed up a little high. We went through things that early retirements, we cut services, we held back maintenance on some things, held back vehicles and equipment, those kinds of things, as best we could for as long as we could, until 2016, when they could do it no longer. And we continue to look for additional revenue sources. In 2016, the council took action and adopted an additional sales tax in Murray that is dedicated directly to Murray. That was given to us by the legislature because we were harmed when the legislature changed some rules with sales tax distribution. We lost some money. And so they gave us this hold harmless. They said, okay, well, we'll give you this little bit of tax that can come back to your city to kind of make up for what you've lost. So in 2016, the council implemented that sales tax, and it brought us up a little bit. It brought us right above that orange line, and we've kind of held strong. But when we knew that things were changing in the public safety industry, and when we were asked to do a compensation study for public safety to see where they were in the market, we found that they were held back in comparison to other agencies because of the actions that what Murray was taking during that 10-year period. Back in 2006 and 7 and 8, our public safety was compensated well, and they loved here, and they stayed here, and they continued to stay here because they want to serve Murray. But when there are other agencies that come after them and offer them $5 more an hour or more, then they have no option but to take that because it would only make sense for their families. They weren't able to support their families. So when we did the compensation study, we came to the council and we asked for a tax increase to fund bringing our public safety officials up to market level. The library is also asked for a tax increase, and that's included in all the numbers that you'll see tonight. So there'll be a city increase for public safety and a library increase, which is a separate tax that is also asked for an increase. So you can see this is from 2010 until present, and you can see the same situation. The library, that gap between the blue and the orange line, the library is only allowed to use property taxes for their revenue source. The city isn't allowed to give them any additional money. And so the library's property tax rate has not kept up with inflationary costs, and so the expenses became higher than revenues. And how did they fill that gap? They filled that because some of you turn in your books late, thank goodness. That's the only way that gap is filled, is by fines paid for late book returns. And so in 2018, the library board has requested that we do two things: that we bring operations back into the black and not into the red anymore, and that we begin a building fund to build a new library. The library is aging, it's limited in its resources and in its size, and so we are interested in bonding for and building a new library close to where the new city center will be located. Now, some of the challenges that we have with property tax is that the city has not increased property taxes at all since 2006. Now, I don't know about all of you, but not everything has stayed the same for 2006. So gas has changed, food has changed, prices of goods and services has changed, and wages have changed. And we've had no additional opportunity to change things for the city since 2006. So this tax increase will fill that inflationary gap for operations and personnel. In addition, another challenge that the city has is that 35% of our land mass is considered tax exempt. That would be county properties, so like Wheeler Farm or any county building, all city properties, so Murray Park, and all nonprofits or churches. So all of those are tax exempt and off the tax rolls. That's quite a challenge for a city when 4 miles of their 12 miles is not contributing property tax at that time. However, Murray has been very responsive and accountable and transparent with its finances. I've worked for a couple of different organizations. I've worked for a county, a special district, and a city over the last 20 years as finance directors. And I've never seen a city run as responsibly as Murray is. You'll see the red circle is our tax rate when you combine a city's tax rate and their library rates together. So because we were asking for both a city increase and a library increase, I wanted you to see both of those together. You will see that we are the 5th lowest of any other city in Salt Lake County, even with this tax increase. If we had not done this tax increase, we would be the very, very lowest. All of the cities with an asterisk are asking for property tax increases this year, and they're all in the same boat. None of us came to our residents for many, many years for property tax increases. I've been asked recently why, Sandy and Draper are able to stay down on that lower end, and the response to that has to do with being a newer city, non-established, and being a high-growth city. So you can continue to live off of your property tax when you've got that continual growth of large commercial developments, because residences only pay 55% of property tax, whereas a commercial building pays 100%. So when you see those high-rises going in Sandy and that Draper area and hotels and those kinds of things, large contributors to property tax, and their property tax revenue can grow exponentially. In fact, I was the finance director for Draper for about 9 years, so I've seen that happen. In addition, it's the value of their homes is also much higher than the value of our homes in Murray. This is a chart of our tax rate comparison for the library alone. Having a hometown library is such a benefit for you as residents. If you did not have a Murray library tax rate, you would be forced to contribute to the Salt Lake County library tax rate, which is the orange lines. You can see it's been almost double what the library rate has been over the last however long, as far back as I could even research. The gray line is Salt Lake City's hometown library tax rate. I don't know how they've gotten above the county, but they're way above the county rate. And you can see Murray is the blue line. Murray's library is very cost effective and actually saves you tax dollars, and if they did not exist, you'd be paying a higher tax rate. So it's a really good thing for our community. The purpose of the new building, as I said before, there's some building improvements that are needing to be done. The building is very old. We've got the systems going out, and we just feel like investing in a building that is not meeting meeting our needs at this point is not as responsible. There's no more room for growth and changing services, And we think that locating the library near City Hall will bring synergy and value into that area. It will bring people and visitors. The timeline for this project is 3 to 5 years. Now, I know some of you wonder where your property tax dollar goes, and this is a picture, is if you live in the Murray School District, 57% of your property tax bill goes to the school district, 23% goes to Salt Lake County. It'd be higher if you had to pay their library tax. 13% goes to Murray City, 4% goes to other special districts, and that'd be like the Mosquito Abatement District and the Central Valley Water Conservancy District, Central Utah. And the Murray Library gets 3% of your tax dollar. So when you look at your bottom line and you apply those percentages, that's how much is actually going to the services you're provided. If you live in the Granite School District, which some of you do, 60% of your tax dollar goes to Granite, 19% to the county, 11% to the city, 7% to other districts, and 3% to the library. This is what your tax bill looks like, and if you can see the red lines, those are the lines that we're discussing today. They are the Murray City tax rate and the Murray City Library tax rate. Excuse me. There's a law that went into effect in 2006, and it's called the Truth in Taxation Law. So many of you are saying, well, I know my tax bill has gone up since 2006, and if the city hasn't raised my taxes, then how has that happened? I know, we've done this 5 times. But the law is truth in taxation. That means that the city has to get the same amount of dollars. So that triangle, $6.1 to $6.2 million, that triangle doesn't move. It's just like a seesaw. That center section sits it in the ground. It is set in the ground and it will not change. What changes though are your values on your home and our tax rate. So if your value goes up, our tax rate goes down. If your value goes down, our tax rate goes up. We're getting $6.1 million for the last 10 years, no matter what. So your value doesn't affect how much money we get. So sometimes when we think, well, my value went up 20% this year, the city's tax rate went down by whatever percent. The city as a whole, their value went up or down. Okay, and that's legislated by the legislature. It's state law. The problem with that, when that went into effect, the cities, we all fought it, is that there's no inflationary change. So if inflation occurs, we begged the legislature, set an inflationary rate and just let them go up by like 3% a year or something that you set for us, that we won't even be allowed to do anything with. And they said, absolutely not, you can work on the same dollars no matter what, unless you go through a public process. So that's this public process, and the city has not gone through it since 2006. So let me show you what that kind of looks like to you. If last year, that 2017 column there, if your home, the average home value, I just changed the slide, was $298,350. If you have a home, your property tax value gets discounted 45%. Again, state law, which is great for you. And your taxable value goes down to $164,000, and then the tax rate was, with the library and the city together, 0.001759. So you paid $288.64 or $24 a month. Okay, so that was last year. This year is the next column over. Your house value went up. I think all of you probably saw your values go up. Okay, the city's value went up 8.4%. So if your value went up, your average house price is $323,500. If you see that, the city's tax rate went down 9.2%. So in order for them to get us the exact same revenue, they adjusted our tax rate and you paid the same amount in. These are averages based on those home values. That would be what you would see. If your home is valued at something else, I can do the math for you, but you'd have to give me a call. And then that third one is the new rate. So it's applying the same home value, $323,500, and applying the new tax rate. And you can see the difference between $24.05 and $35.33 per month. So in essence, we're asking for about $10 and, there it is, $11.28 per month or $135 a year with this tax increase. And that is for both the library and the city's increases. Again, this is exactly what I just said, the $135.40 per year for the average home value of $323,500. A total increase to your bottom line would be between 6% if you're in the Granite School District and 7% if you're in the Murray School District. What do we do with our money? A quick rundown. 47% of our revenues comes from sales tax. And with this tax increase, 21% comes from property tax. Now, best practice for a city is for those to be kind of a three-legged stool. They should be about 33% and 33%. However, we have a strong sales tax base, so we're able to keep our property taxes lower with that. And then the other kinds of charges for services and those kinds of things are those other little quarters and dimes in there. On the other side, though, is your expense budget. And you can see dollar for dollar, public safety takes about half of our budget, and then parks and recreation and capital projects takes about the other half. You can see this is our budget for the last year and then our proposed budget, and you can see where those changes are. We're asking for a $2.9 million increase to property tax. We have looked everywhere for additional revenue sources, and we have no other resource. They will be dedicated to the increase in the wages for our firefighters and our police officers and for the additional staff that were added for public safety. And they will be added for the debt payment on the fire station that will be built, the fire station that was 40 years old. We also know that our priority is you, and we're here to serve. So I know that the council is wanting to hear your comments this evening. In addition, we know that there are many that are on fixed incomes and may have this be a burden to them. There is a resource for a tax relief program available through Salt Lake County. Because the county collects all the taxes for everyone, they run the tax relief program. We don't have the option to run one ourselves. And the application we have put online, it is on our Murray City website under How Do I, and then read about more about property taxes, and the application is right on there. It's also on the county assessor's website as well. And another resource for you, if you aren't eligible for the tax relief program, is that if you feel like your value has changed tremendously over the last 2 years, there is the opportunity to appeal your value, and that is through the county assessor's office as well. I hear many people appeal their values and they get a positive ruling for the most part, as long as they have some substantiation behind them. So if you have any other questions or comments, we'll be happy to answer those. Thank you.
Thanks, Denise. Any council members want to add anything at this time? Okay, then what we'll do again, it is a public hearing. We'll open it up for public comment. We'd ask you to come to the podium, give us your name and address, limit your comments to 3 minutes. And if you do speak, please fill out a form and make sure that Jan Lopez gets it. So we will open this now for public comment. Would anybody like to come comment?
Lola Barrett, 6106 Valley Drive, Murray, Utah. That was a wonderful presentation, very knowledgeable. I love Murray City. I've been here 45 years now. I think we've got a great city. We've got great firemen, great policemen, and just speaking about the firemen, I have 2 grandsons fighting fires right now. And but I'm also a senior citizen, and so like the first gentleman who spoke at the wrong time, I feel that same pressure with my situation. And like our firefighters and policemen, people on Social Security haven't really had any raise either, and what they did get went to Medicare. So most of us can't go out and get a second job to bring in a little more money. So a 47% increase is just too much. So I'm going to ask you to go back and look at that again. I could live with half of that, but 47% is too much. I helped pay for the library that we have now, and I don't think it needs to be replaced yet, and I think that could be put off, and that might be one thing that you could look at. And you guys vote with your yays and your nays, but I will be voting with my ballot. And Mr. Cox, you are my new representative. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
My name is Bill Hogan. I live 6245 Rodeo Lane. Looking at things, I'm very sad for the last few years that we were annexed into Murray. I'd rather be annexed into Holiday. They're a lot better, and we get better service. We would get a better service from Holiday than we do from Murray. It says 6 or 7% increase. Actually, it's 47%. If you look at Salt Lake City Library, the chart she had up there, their expenses went down like this. Murray went up like this. So there is a problem there. If you do anything with the University of Utah, you'll notice that they've gone electronically. And even Whitmore's done an awful lot electronically. So, you know, maybe you need to look at electronically running your library instead of trying to spend an awful lot of money building a building that's not electronically controlled. Our world is internet. Our world is electronics, not paperback books. I've been a professor teaching, and we have gone away from paper books. I've been on fixed Social Security. My increase has not gone up. I've had to take all your increases. The other question I have, you hit us with this water collection fee for the curbs and this type thing. And you've taken that and lied to us and taken any excess and put it into the general fund. Are you going to take that and refund that money or drop it down? Or are you going to still rip off the people and putting it back in the general fund? Somewhere along the line, you need to manage your account. Salt Lake City, somebody put a notice in the paper. It says, Salt Lake City, before you raise taxes, why don't you lower your expenses and the income you're paying your people? Because my income's not going up, why should yours?
Thank you. Anyone else?
Greg Nilsson, 960 Bloomsbury Cove. I've enjoyed being here, enjoyed the presentation. I've lived in Murray 30 years, and I've enjoyed living here. I've enjoyed seeing tonight the presentation is showing us that you've tried to hold your taxes for the last 12 years, and I appreciate that. I appreciate living in Murray. Having said that, the thing that bothers me probably the most is the library. My wife is an avid reader, and she reads 4 or 5 books a week, and she doesn't attend the Murray Library because she likes the county one better. So I appreciate the argument you have, which just tells me we really don't need a new library. My home is 26 years old. It's a brand new house. I've taken good care of it. I don't know why a library or a fire station at 40 years is old or dilapidated. I don't quite get it. I'm not saying it's not, but I'm not informed. It just doesn't quite make sense to me. I don't know that we need to add a new library to the city complex. Now, file this under the nickels and dimes section. Just a couple of little things. Some time ago, we changed our recycling so that you collect our recycling every week. What a waste. I put mine out once a month, and I don't need someone coming by every week. And if you go out, please go out, see what your neighbors are doing. The garbage truck stops at every house. The recycling stops at every 5th house. Next time it comes up, let's go back to twice a month. We don't need to have you coming by. And the last thing is our police chief. Have you ever been to a stop sign or a stoplight with a cop car next to you? And did they ever not beat you off the line? They've got big engines in those cars, and I'm just trying to nickel and dime them. Let's save a little bit of money on gas, and let's try. Mine is 6-cylinder, and I don't go as fast as your guys do. I'm just saving money. It's a perception more than it is anything else. And it's not a complaint. It's just something that's bothered me. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we've got one over here.
Well, you can go ahead and go first.
He spoke earlier. You can go. He can speak, but yeah, we'll work it out.
My name is Crystal Walker. I live at 121 West American Avenue. I've lived there for 16 years now. I live, work, shop in Murray City, and I'm married to a Murray City firefighter. In 2007, I quit my job and went back to work. It cut our household income by about 30%. And then the recession hit, and my husband started losing money. We started losing income as well. And from 2007 to 2009, we lost 50% of our household income. So I understand what you all are going through on fixed incomes, but we had a negative downward trend in our income. And for the next 3 years while I was in school, we were at pretty much 50% of our income from 2007. Things started to pick up and our income started to increase a little bit, but not a lot. And we're not comparatively at the same place we were in 2007, except now I have a better job, and that's really helped out. My husband is devoted to his craft, and it upsets him when young firefighters leave, because firefighters work in crews and they develop rapport with one another, and when somebody leaves, it changes the dynamic. And also, our police officers, they need time to figure out the city. It takes a little bit of time to figure out how things work, where things happen. And when they leave, they take all of that knowledge with them and they take it to somewhere that's willing to pay for their skill. And I like living in Murray. I like the people that work here in Murray. I've always had positive experiences with everybody, police, fire, people in the city council office. And I hate to see them leave. I hate to see, I want them to work here as much as I want to live here. And when you take that property tax increase on a median home of $135 and change, works out to be $2.60 a week. And I know that when you break it down like that, that's just little things that you need to fix. I did it for 3.5 years, and so I would like you to consider that as you're thinking about it. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm back again at the right time. Kenton North, 1698 East, 6525 South. I think every firefighter and policeman, teacher deserve a raise. They're wonderful people, and I don't think that's the problem. One thing that I am concerned about when I drive home Vine Street, the castle that the firefighters just built up there is bigger than a lot of mansions. I've seen some huge buildings that have been put up. It's nice to have a good, clean, nice new building, but between that and schools that they're tearing down, I went to Highland High School when I was younger. Skyline now is being torn down. All these buildings, Wasatch, it's Granite School District, but they're being torn down, and wonderful buildings have been put in their place. Olympus High School, for example, is a college campus, way more than they needed to do. I just think we need to be careful about how the money is spent, in particular on brand new buildings. Build them a new building, but don't make it a castle. Make it someplace where they're comfortable and they enjoy to be there, but not some of those ones on 72nd South. I don't know who pays for it, but all I know, $500 more is coming out of my budget next year, and I'm not quite sure where to pull that from. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
My name is Dustin Lewis. I live at 672 Krista Court. I've been a resident in Murray for about 20 years now, and I just want to thank you, Mayor and Council, for the job that you do, and I know it's not an easy job. I am grateful to be able to call and have police and fire come to my home when it's needed. I'm grateful for the road when it gets swept and when it gets plowed. I'm grateful for the great programs that the community offers and the activities in the parks and all of those great things. And I realize that those don't come at a low price. There's a cost to providing those services. And I, for one, I sympathize with people that are on fixed incomes. I really do. I know it's tough. But I also realized that it costs money to run a government, and to expect those kinds of things from you and those types of services come with a price tag. I spend a good deal of my time poring over municipal budgets, and I realized that it's not an easy task. When people come in and they want this fixed and they want that done and they want this service added, and it's not easy. So I come to give my support for the tax raise and to thank you for being willing to stand up and do what other councils before you didn't want to do over the last 10 years. So kudos to you for being willing to do that. I know it's not an easy task. You've spent the last 6 months debating, questioning your department heads if these things are really needed, asking them to cut funds, and that's not easy to do. And I know that you have good people that work here, and I know that they've gone through those budgets. They use a lot of care in those funds that have been entrusted to them. So continue to do the good work, and you have my support.
Thank you. Anyone else? I do have one. You coming up? Yeah. Okay.
Hi, Kim Anderson, 1144 Chevy Chase Drive. I guess my major problem with the tax increase is that the costs are all coming at once. The 47% or 45%, whatever you want, it's all at once. Costs have gone up for everything, but I'll tell you, my pay has not gone up, and other people's pay salaries are not going up. If you look at national trends, their wages are not going up now, and but taxes and all costs are. So between tax increases, just food costs, water costs, the Jordan Valley Water Conservancy District as nickel and dime just to 5 increases over 4 years. All these costs add up to a deadly cut that is going to bleed us to death. I think there's just got to be something done. And I think one of the things that I've heard about is Sandy City seems to be getting a lot of money from the county, and I don't know what that fund is, but they happen to have people like Dave Spatafor up there, I think is the name of the guy, working for them, pulling in that money that is county money into their city. There was a big article about it a few 5 or 6, 7 months ago, at least on TV, talking about how those people can bring that money in to their city. It's because of who they know and who they work with at the county and at the state. I would like to see Murray City try to work at some of that money to offset some of the costs that may be needed for the city, but not necessarily paid for by the city residents. There are those funds available through county money that are optional taxes out there. Is there not?
Yes.
Is Murray City actively trying to get those funds?
Yes. We have a lobbying staff.
Okay, I guess the next question I would ask is, are we getting any?
Yes. We've gotten quite a few million in transportation dollars to rebuild roads.
Okay, but there are other funds than just roads, though, right? Anyway, I appreciate that. All I'm saying is that there are other funds. There are other ways to make money other than just the raise of taxes. Anyway, that's all I have to say, and thank you very much.
Thank you. I'd like to read one letter, one email for the record. It is from Laura Haskell, Murray resident, 5287 Clover Meadow Drive. And she writes, I'm unable to attend the council meeting on August 14th. However, I wanted to comment on the property tax increase. A portion of the increase would be for an officer to be assigned to AISU. Murray School District does an excellent job of filling their general statement of purpose, which is to educate and train children in Murray City. Schools in Murray District are built and staffed based on needs of children in the city. Charter schools are built based on emphasis of interests such as sports, STEM, performing arts, flexibility in scheduling or other criteria. These schools pull students from a broad area and serve a high percentage of out-of-the-area students. By funding a police officer at AISU, the city is setting a precedence that any future charter schools will be assigned an officer. The city has no control over when and where these schools are built. I would ask that the city not begin the policy of funding police officers for charter schools and allow Murray School District to continue to be the organization responsible for determining when a new city funded school is required. So I need that one on the record also. Any other public comment? Going once, going twice. All right, we will close the public comment portion of the public hearing and open it up to council deliberation. Any comments? Any further comments? Denise, do you have anything you want to follow up with? Again, we've done a bunch of meetings on this. We hear you on the do less. We did. In 2008, when the economy drove off the cliff, our sales tax revenue dropped dramatically, and it did not come back to what it was until late 2015. We did a lot of cutting. We deferred purchases of police cars. We've deferred building maintenance. The last thing we want is your public safety officials in a building that is not earthquake proof, because the big disaster that we feel we'll face in this state is going to be an earthquake. Station 81, the station we need to replace, is not seismically sound, and certainly this building isn't. In fact, if we were having a council meeting and Craig was the chief was up in his office, and we had an earthquake, he'd probably end up sitting right about there. We need a safe building, and this one is falling down. When I started on the council, they jackhammered into the floor to fix a sewer line break, and they did it by sleeving it. It's a neat process, and it bonds to the pipe and it makes it sound. And they told us this has a life of 7 years. That was 2004. It's 2018 now. If we lose that line, then we pretty much have to vacate the building. So we need to plan ahead for that. In fact, the mayor at his State of the Union, or State of the City address in January, quoted an article from the Murray newspaper that we need to build a new city hall, and it should be located off State Street off of 48 South. That article was 40 years ago. We've been working on it for 40 years. We've cut a lot, and unfortunately equipment gets old. In 06 at the last increase, gas wasn't over $3 a gallon, and our police cars run on gasoline. Fire engines use diesel. Roads are paved with petroleum products. It's just tough to do it all and not do an increase. And we get the fixed on income thing. Most of us are retired and suffer from that same fate too, and some of us have very high medical bills to go with. So we also, believe me, understand the Medicare, Medicaid issue, and whether we have health insurance or not. So we don't take this lightly. If we were trying to pull a fast one, I can assure you we wouldn't have held 5 public meetings, and we probably wouldn't. We'd try to slip this under the radar, but we don't do that. We try to be open to you all. So again, thank you for coming. Thank you for your comments. And anybody else have anything else? And if not, I would entertain a motion.
I'd just like to say one thing, that this is not easy for us, and we have looked and looked and searched and found, dimes and pennies and gone through the couches and under the rugs, and we've worked really hard at this because we understand that's why it's taken 13 years. This is a difficult process, and we really do care. So we take it seriously. And I'm so glad that everyone's here and cares enough to really educate themselves. So.
If I might for just a second, I know this is a hard thing to do. We'll probably all need ulcer medicine by the time it's over. But it's something that we've worked hard on. We've tried, as Diane and Jim have said, we've tried hard to find alternatives. Unfortunately, taxes, it would be better if it was raised in smaller incremental units, but we can't do anything about what happened between 2006 and 2018. What we have to do is take care of the city now. We have to take care of our firefighters, our policemen, our parks, the services that Murray is used to. And I appreciate your comment. You're in my district, and I do appreciate that. And I hope you'll reach out and take advantage of maybe some help from the county. or, get some tax relief, because it is hard to pay taxes. I don't want to pay them any more than anybody else. But I've been on this council for 6 months, and I've said this in other meetings. I'm proud of the council. This is the only city that holds meetings other than this truth and taxation meeting. We held 5 meetings, 1 in each council district, so people could come in and understand and see the presentation that you saw tonight. We do that so people can understand, and there is no way that we're going to try to pull a quick one, and we never will. And the employees that take care of us, and when I ran, I said, I want to take care of the people that take care of us. And that's very important to me, and I can't, and I appreciate you vote, and I appreciate everything that's been said, but I can't make a decision like this on getting reelected, because I was elected to make the hard decisions. And this one is hard. It is really hard. I know it's hard on people, but it's also been hard on our employees. And we want the very best when somebody needs a policeman, or somebody needs a paramedic or a firefighter. We don't want someone that has just come out of the academy. Not that there's anything wrong with that. We all learn. We all start someplace. But as Jim has often said, when he had some heart trouble, he wanted the 10-year paramedic there, not the man or woman right out of the academy. And that's the service that we want to continue to provide for Murray citizens. And it takes money to do that. We were losing. It takes $40,000 to $50,000 to train a firefighter or paramedic to get him, or a firefighter, policeman, or paramedic to get him up to snuff. And then they go to other agencies. Salt Lake City's hiring a boatload. Other agencies you see what's happening to Unified, Harriman, Riverton. They all want our policemen and our firemen, and we can't have that. We need to take care of them like they take care of us. Thank you.
Any others?
I'm prepared to make a motion if everybody's spoke. Okay. Make a motion, Mr. Chairman, that we adopt an ordinance adopting the rate of tax levies for the fiscal year commencing July 1, 2018 and ending June 30th, 2019.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on the motion? All right, then I'll call for the vote. Jennifer?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. All right, we have no unfinished business. Next item is new business to consider a resolution authorizing the amendment of an interlocal cooperation agreement between Salt Lake County and Murray City for the operation of a small satellite hazardous waste collection center. Doug.
Thank you. The city and Salt Lake County has, for 17 years, had an agreement whereby citizens can drop off their hazardous waste materials, specifically antifreeze, batteries, oils, and paints, to our public works offices, and Salt Lake County in turn will then collect them and dispose of them properly. So as I mentioned, this has been an agreement. We've been doing this for 17 years. It's a very convenient service for our citizens, and allows for proper disposal of hazardous waste. So this agreement that's before you this evening would be to extend that for 1 year. They're always a 1-year agreement. So this would be the 17th amendment to the agreement that we started 16 years ago. Be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Doug?
Just that I really appreciate having it there. We've had to dispose of many batteries, so it's really good to have it there. So thank you for doing that.
Okay, if there's no further questions, I would entertain a motion.
I'll move that we approve the resolution of the amendment of the interlocal cooperation agreement between Salt Lake County and Murray City for the operation of a small satellite hazardous waste collection center.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Further discussion? All right, Jennifer.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. And the final piece of business for the council is to consider an ordinance enacting section 6.16.070 of the Murray City Municipal Code relating to the sale of dogs, cats, and rabbits at pet shops, retail businesses, or other commercial establishments within Murray City. And Dale, I'm going to let you field this one.
Well, thank you. I met with the Humane Society several weeks ago, maybe even a month and a half ago, and we discussed an ordinance for Murray City, and the more I thought about it, the more I liked it for several reasons, not only for the humane treatment of animals, which I think fits into the Murray spirit, but also from another regulatory aspect. If someone wants to come to Murray and have a business, start a pet store, pet shop, I think it's only fair that they know what Murray would require of them or expect of them to come. And I have 3 presenters that will do a brief presentation. Deanne Shepard and Jean Bear-Schmidt from the Humane Society, and then Arlen Bradshaw.
Well, thank you, Council. I appreciate the opportunity to address you this evening, especially after a truth and taxation hearing. My name is Arlen Bradshaw. I am the Regional Director for the Mountain West for Best Friends Animal Society. And the mission of my organization is to bring about a time of no more homeless pets. And in practical terms, what that means is that we work with animal shelters, municipal and private, to help lower their rates of euthanasia. In fact, we've worked for a number of years with your Murray City shelter on a trap, neuter, return program for cats, which I think has been pretty successful for Murray City. The work that we do in the state of Utah, we work with 57 different animal welfare organizations, rescue organizations, and the shelters on a variety of issues. And the issue before you this evening, the reason that we are interested in it and care about it is primarily because of puppy mills. And if you're unfamiliar with that term, I've got a quick video that will play in which my colleague, who's far more eloquent than myself, will explain to you why puppy mills are a problem and why pet stores who source from puppy mills need them. So I'll start the video.
Puppy mills are a very serious problem in this country. These high-volume commercial dog breeding facilities, which supply nearly 100% of U.S. pet stores and online puppy retailers, are substandard factories in which profit and maximum productivity take priority over the health and welfare of the animals. Although licensed dog breeders who sell to pet stores and distributors are regulated by the U.S. Department of Agriculture, the minimal federal standards do not ensure a healthy or humane life for dogs. In fact, they do little more than require food and water. These types of kennels can legally have hundreds, often 1,000 dogs in one facility, and those dogs are allowed to be confined to cages that are only 6 inches larger than the dogs themselves, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for their entire lives. They are often deprived of exercise, veterinary care, and positive human socialization. Many have never felt the sun on their backs or solid ground beneath their feet. It's far from the life any of us would want for a dog. Because the goal at a puppy mill is to make a profit, mill owners must cut corners in order to keep expenses low and profits high. So staffing, quality of care and nourishment, veterinary attention, and human contact all tend to be minimal, and dogs are routinely overbred and inbred in order to maximize the investment. For the unsuspecting consumer, this frequently results in the purchase of a pet facing an array of immediate veterinary problems or harboring genetic diseases that surface down the line, well after the store's warranty or state lemon law is no longer applicable, provided the particular state has such a law. This creates a financial burden on the consumer and results in many of these animals being surrendered to our already overcrowded shelters. Approximately 1/4 of the dogs in shelters are purebred. This is not just a humane issue, but a consumer fraud issue, as customers assume the animals they are buying at such a high price are healthy and of the highest quality, when in fact this is rarely the case. So while the retailers may benefit from the practice of buying puppies at a low price from mostly out-of-state commercial dealers and then selling them at a high profit, typically without first spaying or neutering them, it is the tax-paying public that pays to house and often kill unwanted animals in the community. Puppy mills are in business to supply the pet trade. We estimate that there are about 10,000 licensed and unlicensed puppy mills in the United States, mostly concentrated in the Midwest. Those mills produce roughly 2 million puppies every year. Meanwhile, 2 to 4 million animals are killed in U.S. shelters every year. These are not defective, unadoptable animals, but a surplus caused by the fact that there are simply not enough people stepping up to adopt them. It makes little sense to continue manufacturing dogs when so many are being killed for lack of space.
So just a few quick points that I think is pertinent. So first of all, this wouldn't prohibit a pet store from opening in Murray. However, it would require that they source their animals from a shelter. My organization has an adoption center in Sugar House, and that is the model that we utilize, are bringing animals directly from municipal shelters, including Murray's shelter. Murray is also the home of the amazing Humane Society of Utah, which is a great place to adopt a pet, and definitely I think something we should encourage, and I know Gene will address that a little further. So if Murray passes this ordinance, you will be the 9th jurisdiction in Utah that will have it on the books. We hope to see many more follow suit and appreciate your leadership. Thank you.
Thank you, Arlen. My name is Gene Bearschmidt. I'm the Executive Director of the Humane Society of Utah. And as Arlen mentioned, we are very happy to be in Murray. We've been there since 1992. And we are the largest open admission shelter in the state. We handle about 12,000 animals a year. And I think that video you saw was very enlightening in that, and I won't be redundant, but the purpose of this is to stem, the purpose of this ordinance is to stem the flow of animals coming from puppy mills that, as you saw, in many cases keep animals in very deplorable conditions. The other thing is it's to help adopt people to go to shelters, encourage them to adopt from shelters or rescue groups. So we are in very strong support of this ordinance. And, you know, also I'd like to just point out PetSmart and Petco, who are the leaders in the industry, they adopted this model when they first opened to not sell dogs or cats or rabbits. And rather what they do is they allow rescue groups and shelters to bring dogs and cats to their stores. And they've through them there's been millions of animals adopted over the last 25 years. And but these people are good corporate citizens, and they are serving the community that they're in. And so we really, you know, feel, you know, that this ordinance would go a long way. And we feel also that this is a preemptive strike, that if a pet store wants to open, like Councilman Cox mentioned, it lets them know what the rules are before they even open. And believe me, this is not designed to put pet stores out of business. But again, we support this ordinance, and we again thank you for letting us come tonight and speak, and we hope you can support it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, I just have a couple of more things. Not all dog breeders or puppy mills, they're not all bad. This ordinance also takes that into consideration. Section E, it says this section shall not apply to the display, offer for sale, delivery, bartering, action, giveaway, transfer, or sale of dog, cats, or rabbits from the premises in which they were bred or reared. So there are responsible puppy breeders, and You can go there. My son got one, got a Siberian Husky, and my God, what a dog. But went to a reliable breeder, and they went through everything about the dog, the history, the mother, and it's a purebred. And when she was through, she said, if this dog, if they're ever, next week, next year, or 10 years from now, if you can't, for some reason, keep this dog, bring it back to me, and they will take it. That's responsible puppy breeding. And that's what we're trying to get to here. So I know there's some angst about this, but I think it's the right thing to do. And I think Murray, it's the right thing for Murray, and we'll be joining other cities like Salt Lake County, Mill Creek, Immigration Canyon, Copperton, Kearns, Magna, White City, Sandy, and I believe Midvale. So we'll be joining several municipalities already, and I hope it passes tonight and it continues throughout the state. Thank you.
Thanks, Dale. Anybody else want to weigh in?
I have a couple of questions. So Salt Lake County has passed this. Does it then, since...
What's that? 3 years.
Okay, so then that means that Murray is under that ordinance?
No. So the county can only adopt this type of ordinance as it applies to our municipal authority, which is only within the unincorporated areas. So this is your business licensing, so the county's ordinance does not apply.
Oh, okay.
So that's why Magna and all those cities, or Copperton and all that, are all under the direction of the county.
This is within the ordinances of the metro townships now as well.
Okay.
Okay. Also, I just want to make sure, I mean, I think puppy mills are horrible, and I think we need to do whatever we can do to make sure that they don't exist. I mean, I truly agree with that. I just want to make sure that this is the most effective way for Murray to go. And so I'm just wondering, GL, if there are other options and what they might be.
I think we've talked before a little bit in the committee of the whole about this issue, and one of the issues that came up was the possibility of passing a resolution and sending it on, because of the difficulty of the concern that I've expressed about the legal uncertainty in Utah. A resolution would be one alternative. It doesn't bind anybody to do anything, but it would be an expression of support for banning puppy mills.
And this would be binding then? This?
Yes, in Murray City it is. Yes.
Okay, and it would, and also, Mayor, you have some concerns as well, and...
Yeah, each of you received a memo from me last Friday, which I'd like to have included in the record of this meeting if possible. But just in a nutshell, first of all, I've been to the I've toured the Humane Society. It's a great facility, and I'm not a puppy hater. I'm not a puppy mill lover. My concerns are the practical part of it, not the emotional part. My concerns are, first of all, as the arm of government that will be charged with enforcement, I have some concerns on what that enforcement will look like. Specifically, the resources it may or may not take to verify certificates of compliance, or certificates of what are they called? Certificates of source. And it's hard for me to turn a deaf ear or a blind eye to cautions given by the city attorney. I know that there's been litigation, and I know that these ordinances have been upheld in some cities throughout the country. But my concern is at what cost, what legal cost, to defend an ordinance that maybe one of the other concerns I'd like to put out there. And Dale, you mentioned this, that not all breeders are puppy mills, and I appreciate you bringing that point up. But what this ordinance does is it prohibits PetSmart or anybody else from obtaining their stock from anything other than the shelters. So that concerns me that we're regulating a source of a store's inventory, and just wondering about the practicality of enforcement of that. The other thing I would bring up is that it mentioned in the video that this does not stop internet sales. This ordinance is just real focused on one small area, and I don't even think that the ordinances that are passed within the other cities within the county are all the same ordinance. So those are just some concerns that I have, and I've heard from the pro ordinance side of it. I haven't really heard from industry. I don't know if you have or not. I just hope you are considering everything as you consider this ordinance tonight. And as I mentioned in my memo, I recognize that it's within the prerogative of the council to pass this, and of course we'll be bound to enforce whatever ordinances you passed, and we will do that. But I just wanted to express those concerns.
Thank you, Mayor. Anyone else?
No, what Dale said earlier, he says, this is really hard when you're voting and raising taxes or whatever, and I feel the same way. It's kind of tough when you've got people that you respect and you're trying to make a decision of what direction to go on this, because I'm absolutely, definitely against puppy mills, and the more you've enlightened me. Anyway.
Okay. Thoughts?
Yeah, just one more comment. I just really hope that this will do what you want it to do. I mean, I want to make sure that it's the right thing for the council to have as an ordinance, since we haven't had any complaints. But I think it's proactive, and so it makes some sense.
Okay. If there's no other questions, I'll entertain a motion.
I would make a motion that we adopt the ordinance enacting section 6.16.070 of the Murray City Municipal Code related to sales of dogs, cats, rabbits, and pets, shops, retail businesses, and other commercial establishments within Murray City.
I'll second that. Okay, we have a motion and a second. I do have one more item. I did receive an email, but since we heard from Elizabeth Orrick in the video, we'll just add it to the record also. Any other discussion on the motion? Okay, Jennifer, if you call the vote.
Aye.
Aye. I need to declare a conflict. I represent the Humane Society at the state legislature and with local government. And I will vote aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. That takes us now to the mayor's report. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. First of all, thank you for adopting a levy that will support the budget that was passed. So we'll keep the government running. So thank you for investing in the city. As you mentioned earlier, Councilmember Brass, and we had the moment of silence at the beginning of the meeting for the terrible tragedy of the loss of Battalion Chief Matt Burchett. I just wanted to point out that Chief Burchett was the team leader of the team that our three firefighters from Murray were serving with on that fire. So this hits very, very close to home. And of course, our thoughts, hearts, and prayers go out to his family and to the Draper Fire Department and the fire service in general. Our crew is now in critical incident stress debriefing. And as soon as they're finished with that process, they'll be demobilized and we'll be returning back to Murray. Along those same lines, I just wanted to make a comment about this is really the second tragedy in a short amount of time for local government. Last Thursday, the 9th, with the tragic death of Jill Robinson in West Valley. Again, another civil servant just out doing her job. These are two individuals that were dedicated to their jobs, and these jobs maybe don't seem dangerous, but everyone who's serving the public is out there every day, whether it be police, fire, code enforcement, our power department personnel who are on poles or in trenches, our utility folks that are in trenches, and all these folks are out there serving us, and this is just a stark reminder, I think, of how fragile life is, number one, and number two, how much we appreciate the work that our employees do, and I hope we don't take them for granted. A couple of other things. The outdoor pool's been closed since yesterday afternoon for cleaning. We'll reopen tomorrow after 2 p.m. It was an incident that was customer caused, but we'll leave it at that. But the health department requires the pool to be flushed through 7 cycles, which takes 6 hours per cycle. So it will reopen tomorrow afternoon.
That's a lucky number, 7.
Friday's the last day that the rec center will be open for the summer season, and starting Saturday it'll be closed for 10 days for maintenance and for cleaning. I'd also like to mention that now that school's starting again, the police department are looking for a few more crossing guards. So if you know anyone who's interested to help out our local schools, you can have them contact the HR department. We could use some more crossing guards. And finally, a note to you and to the public that our Planning and Zoning Commission meetings are now being streamed live like the council meetings are. They can be viewed from the same link on the Murray webpage or from murraycitylive.com, and are also being archived so they can be reviewed too. So again, that's part of our push for transparency, and I believe that'll be a great service for the public to be able to view those. And that's all I have, unless you have questions.
Any questions for the mayor?
I have a question. So how much are the crossing guards paid?
About $15 an hour.
Oh, okay. All right, you have to consider that.
There you go.
Well, that's more than what we make.
That's very true.
Couldn't resist, sorry.
Yeah, if I might, just to go off a little bit about what the mayor said. With our firefighter from Drake that passed away, he's going to be flown back here by the National Guard. He'll be here at 1:45, or back in Salt Lake at 1:45 tomorrow, and his funeral will be Monday at the Maverick Center.
Okay, thanks, Dale. Since there's no other business on the agenda, we're adjourned.